Welcome to this video and mind map. Today let's cover some Security Plus concepts in about 5 minutes. Zero Trust Architecture. Zero Trust is all about being super cautious with access. Just because someone has logged in doesn't mean they can go anywhere they want. The idea is never trust, always verify, meaning every request to access something needs to be checked and validated again and again. Even after a user passes the basic ID check, the system needs to make sure they actually have permission to access whatever they're trying to reach. That's where checking user rights comes in. It's because access should only be given to what's absolutely necessary. In this kind of setup, there are a few moving parts. The policy enforcement point is like a bouncer at the door. It decides who gets in. Behind the scenes, the policy administrator writes the rules, while the policy engine makes the actual decisions based on those rules. There's also the trust manager, which helps maintain trust across users and devices. All these pieces work together to make sure access is secure and tightly controlled. Security controls. Security controls are the different tools and rules used to protect the system. A detective control is something that kicks in after a problem has happened, like changing a user's password if they've been phished. It doesn't stop the attack, but it helps clean up after the fact and alerts you that something went wrong. Preventive controls, on the other hand, are all about stopping problems before they start, like using full disk encryption to protect data in case a laptop gets stolen. Corrective controls step in after the damage is done to fix things. If a system was compromised, patching the vulnerability that allowed it is a corrective action. It prevents the same issue from happening again. Then there are compensating controls, which are kind of like backups when your main security measure isn't an option. And finally, directive controls are policies that guide how people behave, like company rules on password complexity. All of these together make up a strong defense strategy. Certificates and CRL. Digital certificates are like ID cards for websites and software, proving they're legit. Sometimes, though, these certificates get revoked and land on something called a CRL, or a certificate revocation list. This list tells browsers and systems which certificates are no longer trustworthy. Common reasons for revocation include things like compromised certificate authority, a stolen private key, or a certificate being signed with a stolen key. Interestingly, expired certificates aren't put on the CRL. That's because expiration is a natural end of process for a certificate, not something caused by a security issue. When a certificate expires, it simply stops working. It doesn't need to be revoked. So, if your browser complains that a certificate is on the CRL, that usually means something shady went down. Next is file integrity. When you're sending a file to someone you've never worked with before, it's super important that they trust the file hasn't been tampered with. A great way to do this is by sending a hash of the file separately. A hash is like a digital fingerprint. If even one byte of the file changes, the hash will be different. The recipient can run the hash function on the file and compare the results to see if it's still intact. Other options may seem helpful, but don't really do the job in this context. For example, encrypting the file keeps it private, but it doesn't guarantee it wasn't changed. Digital signatures are awesome for integrity, but they rely on trust and certificate setups that may not be in place yet. And emailing the file size or name, not enough. That's why sending a hash is simple, effective, and doesn't require pre-established trust. Cryptography. Symmetric encryption is fast and reliable for protecting data, but it does have some limits. It's great for keeping things confidential and can even ensure that data hasn't been changed, offering integrity. It can also be used for authentication if you share the key securely. But where it falls short is non-repudiation, which means being able to prove who sent the message or file without them being able to deny it later. For non-repudiation, you need asymmetric encryption and digital signatures. That's because symmetric encryption uses the same key for both encryption and decryption. So technically, anyone with that key could have created the message. So while symmetric encryption is super useful for day-to-day privacy, it's not enough when you need legal or undeniable proof of who did what. Cloud security solutions. If you're storing sensitive information in the cloud, like API keys, passwords, or encryption keys, you'll want a key management service, KMS. A KMS is like a digital vault that helps you securely store, use, and manage your cryptographic keys. It takes the stress off your shoulders and ensures that keys are handled according to best practices, especially in cloud environments. Other options may sound relevant but don't quite fit. TPM is great for securing devices locally but isn't meant for managing keys across a cloud platform. CA issues digital certificates, not keys or secrets. And a CSR, certificate signing request, is just a request for a certificate. It doesn't store anything itself. So if you're looking to manage secrets securely online, KMS is definitely the tool for the job. Well, that's my video. I hope it was informative. I want to thank you for watching.